All right, I'm here with Henry Gosiniak, and we're talking about the Mount Hood ammo ship explosion. And Henry Gosiniak was an eyewitness to the explosion that day in 1944, November 1944. By way of introduction, it was the 10th of November, 1944, and it was 7 in the morning. The harbor, quoting actually from an article that I found on the internet called "I Survived the Mount Hood Ammo Ship Explosion," which is not written by Henry, but Henry was also there. And in the article it says, by 0700, the harbor was alive with the sound of coughing marine engines as buzzing service vessels crisscrossed the sun-basked atoll, carrying out routine wartime chores. The wearying task of keeping armadas of amphibious warships serviced, armed, and maintained, ready for the call to combat. At 08:55, with the blazing sun fast becoming a sweltering fireball, a sudden devastating blast rocked the anchorage. Shocked and stunned by the ear-splitting concussion, many believed the world had come to an end. In a blinding flash, the near-new 13,910-ton ammunition ship USS Mt. Hood AE-11 vanished in a cloud of smoke, snuffing the lives of all 375 sailors aboard. What could cause such a horrific disaster? Was it sabotage, a sneak Japanese attack, a drifting mine, or a careless error by a bone-tired sailor unloading tons of highly volatile explosives? The answer was not soon forthcoming, nor would it be easy to determine or convincingly conclusive. And Henry has also found an article that says the Japanese sub sunk by PT at Manus was identified, and that makes it sound like a Japanese sub did actually sink the Manus, but as we'll now hear more about the account, we may be able to settle this once and for all based on Henry's remote memory of this occurrence. All right, so please tell me, in November 1944, what was your rank and what were you doing at the time?
I was a fireman. At that moments after or moments before, we had quarters on the fantail, which we never had. This was about to get volunteers for submarine duty, and it turned out there were no volunteers.
All right, so help me out. When you say you were a fireman, what do you mean?
Well, a fireman is a rank in the in engineering department, uh, which is lower than a motor machinist mate. And I went up the ranks to a motor machinist mate. But at that time, I think I was a fireman.
All right, and this was aboard what ship?
This was aboard a YMS 286 that was tied alongside the repair ship with other minesweepers. And we were aft of this repair ship.
So you were aboard a minesweeper in need of repair itself?
Right, right. We were there for the occupation of Japan. We were being fixed up for the invasion of Japan.
All right, so as early as November of 1944, there were plans to invade Japan.
Right, right, right. And since there were no volunteers or anything, everyone returned to their quarters or what they were doing. It was a hot, blazing morning, really hot, and they all went for cover. I remained on the fantail looking at some ordnance equipment that the gunner's mate had put out to dry out from rough seas that we went through. and ammunition was there, and other equipment.
So your ship had only arrived a short time before
Correct.
the
Right.
explosion.
Correct.
Had you been there overnight?
Oh yes, yes. Maybe a few days. We were out to sea, and we hit some storms. And I was looking at this ordnance equipment facing the Mount Hood. Okay, it was still, and I was down looking at this equipment, and I heard this noise. Shh! I immediately lift up my head to where the sound was coming from, and I looked at the ship, not knowing it was the Mount Hood, not knowing it was the ammo ship. I didn't know what it was. And I proceeded to look at it, and all I saw was a flame like a blowtorch coming out of the stack. The stack is the funnel that admits the gases from the boilers and also acts as a ventilator in the engine room. Just moments after that, the big blast came, and smoke and fire, and I started to go for cover, and I think I was moved by the blast over the reel and right next to our overhead winch. And
All right, so you were injured. Is that correct?
right, my foot, and I had small cuts and bruises upon my body. I was covered with oil and water, my clothes. I didn't have my shirt. I don't know if I wore one before that or not, but I did not have a shirt on.
All right, so were you injured enough that you needed any medical treatment?
Well, it wasn't shortly after all kinds of medics came and tried to, they gave me some sedative, and they tried to mark me, which they could not because I was covered with black oil from the boilers.
So, did they take you to another ship, or how did they deal with you medically?
Well, I was put aboard a stretcher and brought down on a LVP boat and brought to another repair ship, the Piedmont, the USS Piedmont, where I went aboard, and they laid me on the deck for a while, until they sewed me up and tried to clean me up. It took days before I was cleaned up, days. They put me in a dental chair and sewed me up, and I stayed there aboard there for 3 weeks.
They were sewing up your foot, is that?
Right, my foot, right.
Okay.